A young man stands in front of a British bank, holding nothing but a single banknote. He has no shipyard, no factory, no ships, not even a coastline with proper equipment. And yet he is asking for millions of dollars to build some of the largest vessels on Earth. The bankers look at him like he is joking. He is not. Years earlier, this same man had slept in barns and eaten whatever scraps he could find. He had run away from his own home 4 times, searching for something bigger than the fields he was born into. Now he stands in one of the most powerful financial rooms in Europe, about to make a claim so bold that it sounds impossible. How does a farmer's son with almost no formal education end up negotiating with international bankers? And how does a single piece of paper in his pocket become the reason they say yes? This is the story of Chung Ju-yung, and how a boy who once ran from poverty built one of the largest industrial empires in the world. Chung Ju-yung was born in 1915 in a small farming village, in a part of Korea where the soil was hard and the winters were harsher. His family had little. Meals were small, and even those were not guaranteed. Farming was not a choice. It was survival, repeated every day without change. But Chung wanted something different. He tried to leave home again and again. Each time, his father found him and brought him back to the fields. Each time, Chung left again anyway. He was not running from work. He was running toward a future he could not yet name. Eventually, he made it to Seoul, arriving with almost nothing. He took a job delivering rice for a local shop, waking before sunrise, and carrying heavy sacks through narrow streets while the city was still asleep. He did not complain. He noticed everything instead. He watched how the shop owner managed money, how customers were treated, how trust was built one delivery at a time. When the owner eventually retired, he handed the business to Chung, the delivery boy who had quietly earned his confidence. For the first time, Chung was not just working for someone else's dream. He was building something of his own. But history had other plans. As Japanese occupation tightened its grip on Korean businesses, rice trading became heavily restricted, and Chung's shop was shut down. The stability he had worked so hard to build disappeared almost overnight. He needed a new path, and he found one in something completely unfamiliar to him: automobiles. Chung opened a car repair shop, despite knowing very little about engines. He learned as he worked, taking machines apart just to understand how they functioned, piece by piece. The business began to grow, customers were returning, and it finally felt like progress. Then a fire tore through the shop, destroying it completely. Everything he had built was suddenly ash and broken metal. Most people would have given up. Chung borrowed money instead, rebuilt the shop, and kept going, refusing to let one disaster define the rest of his life. This pattern of loss followed by rebuilding would repeat throughout his career, but so would his refusal to stay down. After Korea's liberation in 1945, Chung shifted direction again. He founded a construction company, taking on projects that rebuilding a war-damaged nation urgently needed: roads, buildings, and infrastructure. Then the Korean War arrived, and with it, devastation on a scale the country had never seen. Cities were destroyed. Families were separated. The economy was in ruins. But where others saw only destruction, Chung saw a nation that would eventually need to rebuild everything, and someone would have to do that work. His construction company took on major infrastructure projects during the post-war reconstruction, including work later connected to American military contracts. These projects were demanding, often unforgiving, with strict deadlines and harsh conditions. But they also taught Chung how to operate at a scale far beyond anything he had known as a delivery boy in Seoul. By the 1960s, Chung had expanded his ambitions again. He founded Hyundai Motor Company in 1967, hoping to build vehicles for a country still finding its economic footing. Critics questioned whether Korea, a nation without a strong industrial base, could ever produce cars that could compete internationally. Chung believed otherwise. Hyundai released the Pony in the 1970s, one of the first mass-produced cars designed specifically in Korea. It was not the most advanced car in the world, but it represented something larger: proof that Korean industry could build for itself, instead of only assembling for others. But Chung's most audacious move was still ahead of him. He wanted to build a massive shipyard in Ulsan, one capable of producing some of the largest ships in the world. There was one enormous problem. He had no shipyard yet. No large ships had ever been built there. No proven track record in shipbuilding existed to show potential lenders. To secure financing from international banks, Chung needed to convince skeptical investors that Korea could build vessels it had never built before, in a location that did not yet have the facilities to do so. During conversations with British bankers, Chung is known to have pointed to an old Korean banknote, which featured an image of a turtle ship, an armored vessel used by Korean naval forces centuries earlier. His message was simple. Korea had a long history of shipbuilding innovation, dating back hundreds of years, long before many other nations had similar capabilities. It was a bold argument, built on national pride and quiet confidence rather than existing infrastructure. The bankers agreed to move forward. Construction on the shipyard began at Ulsan, with the shipyard and the first vessels being built almost simultaneously, an approach that would have seemed reckless to more cautious business leaders. Somehow it worked. Hyundai Heavy Industries would go on to become one of the largest shipbuilders in the world, transforming a stretch of undeveloped coastline into a center of global manufacturing. Hyundai did not stop at cars and ships. Under Chung's leadership, the company expanded into construction, steel production, electronics, and financial services, growing into one of the largest business groups in South Korea. Chung's approach throughout his life followed a consistent pattern. Identify a challenge others considered impossible, commit fully before every detail was certain, and adjust along the way rather than waiting for perfect conditions. This philosophy shaped Hyundai's culture for decades, emphasizing speed, determination, and a willingness to take on projects that seemed beyond the company's current capabilities. Chung Ju-yung passed away in 2001, leaving behind a company that had grown from a rice delivery job into a global industrial group spanning multiple continents and industries. The boy who once ran away from a poor farming village, searching for something more, had built one of the most influential business empires to come out of post-war Korea. He never had the luxury of certainty. He built ships before the shipyard was finished. He built a car company before Korea had significant automotive experience. He built trust before he had a formal track record. Perhaps that was always his greatest advantage. Not confidence that everything would work, but the willingness to move forward before it did. What began with a single delivery boy carrying rice through the streets of Seoul eventually became one of the largest industrial legacies of the 20th century, built not on guaranteed outcomes, but on a repeated decision to act before the picture was fully clear.